Listen, why do you go to work at startups? If you're working at OpenAI, you're working at Microsoft, and you're selling 7-8-figure deals, you can make $1 million easily.
The hardest part of your job is in the first few years where you're doing a lot of heavy lifting. It actually gets easy over time.
We're going to be talking about what it means to make $100,000 in sales, $500,000, $1 million.
What are the different ways, AJ, to make $1 million?
Let's do this.
Hey everybody, it's Sam Jacobs. Welcome to Top Line. You're listening to another great episode. I'm joined by my co-hosts, Asad Zaman, the CEO of Sales Talent Agency, AJ Bruno, the CEO of QuotaPath. I'm the CEO of Pavilion. Today on the show, we're going to be talking about compensation, specifically sales compensation. You know, there's a lot of jobs, and we've been talking about the labor market coming out of college. It's a bleak outlook for people that are entering their first year of work post-college. But there is one career that promises a lucrative path if you can do the work that's necessary. And it's the oldest career, and that is the career of sales. We're going to be talking about what it means to make $100,000 in sales, $500,000 in sales, $1 million, and how executive compensation is changing in light of AI. So it's going to be a great conversation on compensation, something near and dear to everybody's hearts. With that, gentlemen, let's start our engines.
Let's do this.
Okay, so Asad, you are the executive recruiter among the three of us. Why don't you set the stage for what we're going to be talking about? And I believe, are we going into our beautiful, wonderful, famous segment that we call Quiz?
Yes, we are. Okay, 4 questions, multiple choice questions. We're going to frame our conversation using them. The first question for you, Sam, is how many sales reps are there in the US? The options are
52.
7.8 million, 13.8 million, 20.8 million, or 30.8 million.
I love the consistency of the 0.8 million. Okay.
You know there's a 0.8 in there.
7, 13, 20, or what's the last one?
30.
13.8 million.
Ooh, Sam on the money with that one. It is 13.8 million people are sales.
That's going to be my guess.
In the US. AJ, now you got to keep this up. Okay. How many of these people are tech sales professionals? 1.1 million, 2.1 million, 3.1 million, or 4.1 million? I'll give you a hint. There's about 13-ish million people that work in tech in the US.
I think your hint is that it ends in 0.1. That's your hint.
I'm giving you guys some consistency here.
You said there's 13
I've taken the feedback.
So it was 1, 2, 3, 4? Was that the choices?
That was not the choices.
What were the choices?
1.1,
yeah,
2.1,
yeah,
4.1, and 5.1.
Okay, 1, 2, 4, 5. You skipped 3.
4.1.
No, it is 1.1 million tech sales professionals.
Wow.
A little under 10% of all the people that work in tech work
That's
in
surprising.
sales.
That is surprising. I would think the number would be higher.
But remember, sales is just a component of go-to-market. So when you put all of go-to-market together, you take marketing in there, you take customer success in there, you take pre-sales, post-sales, that number starts getting
See, Sam, I was including SDRs, not BDRs and MDRs in this number.
I was talking to somebody last week, and they're like, we moved all of our SDRs to BDRs. I'm like, you know that there's no consistent definition on those acronyms, right? They're like, no, SDRs are outbound, BDRs are inbound. I'm like, okay.
Like, no,
sure.
not
Is
in
that
Austin.
really? I honestly thought it was the opposite.
I think there's no consistent definition, and everybody acts like there is. And we can, and if you're out there, listener, you can walk into any conversation and say, there's no consistent definition, ma'am or sir.
What's a MDR?
Market development.
Oh, that was Austin.
Really?
That was Austin. That's what we called it in Treadkite, was MDR.
And what do they do?
Market development, of course.
Yeah, obviously. Gee.
You idiot. Jackass. Okay. How many of these tech sales professionals, so there's about 1.1 million of them, how many of them, Sam, have changed jobs? They've taken a new job in the last 12 months. These options are 50,000, 160,000, 220,000, and 300,000. 100,000.
Oh my God. What's the second choice? 100 and what?
160,000.
I'm going 160,000.
Sam's on a roll. This is Sam's quid pro quo.
Oh.
160,000. So about 10-ish% of them have moved in the last 12 months.
How do you
does that
feel
make-
about that, Asa? Do you think that's a lot or a little?
I think that's healthy. Like, I think that's a healthy amount of movement in the market. We know that 2025 has had quite a lot of demand in the market for sales professionals. And if you compare that, that's more salespeople, said another way, more salespeople have taken new jobs in the US than all the people laid off in tech across the US this year. Interesting.
Do you have previous year's numbers on that, Austin?
I do not.
Oh,
Okay.
I was interested in 2021. I bet you that was north of 20%, close to 30%. That's my guess.
There was a lot there.
Stay tuned for another episode. You'll get that number
We'll come
soon
back.
enough.
Show notes. Go check the show notes out. Okay, last question. AJ, you should be able to get this one. To be in the top 1% of income earners in the US, how much money do you have to earn? 450,000, 730,000, 1.1 million, or 1.5 million.
I think the number is actually quote unquote surprising. I'm going to go 450. No,
That is
700.
It
700.
is not AJ. Yes.
That was my actual answer. Austin, I didn't go final. I was looking for a reaction because I was playing it out and I wanted Sam to get a back and forth, and you ruined it for me. So 700,000, final answer. Yay, I got it.
This has been good. You guys have gone quite a few of these.
I love it. It's like we're friends, but are we?
Top 10% income is 251,000. And then from a net worth perspective, to be in the top 10%, you have to be worth 970,000. 1% is about 11
All right,
million.
Austin, I got a question for you. The CROs that you're hooking up and getting roles, how many hit that 1% earner bucket of OTE?
750,000.
Yeah, how many of the jobs that you're
cash.
placing for CROs is 750 or above?
Only if you are getting a job at a company that does more than 100 million in revenue. It does your cash compensation on target. So your base salary plus your bonus gets you about $700,000. That can be somewhere between 700 to a million. But even CROs at Series B companies and Series C companies don't get up to 700 these days. In the pandemic, during ZIRP times, even a Series A CRO, where they had maybe $1 million in revenue, would get up to $700,000 comp plans.
Seed even. I mean, I will say this outright. Our first CRO at QuotaPath was 500K OTE.
All right, here's a question.
Isn't that absurd?
Question number 5. I don't know the answer to this, but but you both probably have a good insight on it. What is the percent attainment broadly of CROs against their OTE?
Ooh, there is really no great data on this. So I'll take a shot in the dark. I would say it's probably about 50 to 60%.
Yeah,
50 to 60%. The number of CROs hitting their OTE, and then what do you think the average kind of like attainment is towards the OTE, like in terms of how far they get?
It's very close to 100%. I have not heard of many CROs who are well above plan. Also because how likely is it as a CRO? You're leading the entire function. You've given a number, you've given a forecast, you've got a goal. How likely is it that you're going to beat it by 50 to 100%? It takes resources to be able to hit numbers. And so you've built your machine to hit a number. Maybe you exceed it by a bit, but not by a lot. Whereas if you're a sales rep, if you're one person selling into the market, I think the likelihood of you crushing your number, doing 3 times what that is much higher than if you are a leader leading a function.
Here's what it is, Austin. Your ceiling for CRO isn't as high, like you said, but your floor is not as low. You're probably attaining at least 80% of your OTE, or you're getting let go. And that would be my guess.
I don't know about the let go part. I think
I mean, I don't know what you all feel. Well, I guess this is what we'll talk about, but like, I think sometimes CROs come into a conversation about comp and they say, if I get 80% of my number, I should get 80% of my payout. And I'm saying the company cannot miss its number by 20% and you feeling like you basically got almost full pay.
Yeah.
So I have pretty steep cliffs in general where below 75%, probably zero. And then maybe from like 75 to 90%, maybe you pay like 50%, or it's somewhere in there where it
Yes,
only
I
becomes
agree.
pro rata very close to
I
100%.
definitely agree with you on that decelerator, the clip. I don't agree that's 50% base rate from 75 to 90. At 90, you got to be close to 1-to-1. And then it's also retroactive most likely as well, right? Because you're getting credit for the 70% that you already got passed through.
Do you think differently, Sam, if you're an individual sales rep? If you're listening and you're about to embark on your career, you're going to start as a sales rep before you become a leader. If the sales rep hits 80% of their number, how do you think they should get paid?
I think they should get paid much closer to 80% of their OT. I just think that the CRO has to understand that, again, getting to 20% of your number probably means the company missed wildly, and
they lost a lot of money. Like there was a heavy burn.
Yeah,
invested
for
a
sure.
lot that didn't work out. Okay, so we're here to talk about this career path that is underappreciated as a way to build a great life, make a lot of money. It's not for everyone. It's not for everyone. You have to have certain characteristics and a certain temperament to be able to do it. But if you have those things, you can build a great life doing it. And so the first question, Sam, is if you are straight out of university and you are about to start your career in tech sales, how likely is it that you can make $100,000 in your first year?
I think in your first year, it's unlikely, but I think you could get close. The most obvious entry point into tech sales is going to be a sales development representative. And even in an age of AI, people are still hiring SDRs. They're enhancing them with, AI tools and AI capabilities. But a crushing SDR, somebody that just does an amazing job, and maybe has, maybe their comp plan has some kind of element that ties to closed won deals. Maybe they get like 1 point on a closed won deal in addition to mainly getting paid for, qualified meetings held or sales qualified opportunities created. That person might get close to 100. It's quite hard. I don't know what you're seeing, Asid, in terms of starting base pay. It used to be 50-25 was what an SDR made. So they made 75. Then during the pandemic, I saw OTEs go up to 90, where you'd come in out of school making 70K, 75K, and maybe you'd have an OTE that actually approached 100. But I think that there's been a rationalization of SDR comp over the last couple of years. And so I think it's possible to make 100K. I don't think it's easy, and I think it's important that people push pretty hard to do it.
Sam, to your question, about $50,000 to $60,000 base salaries are the norm right now. If this is your first job as a BDR, BDR is how you start your career, and a BDR is basically a lead generator. You are cold calling and cold emailing to create opportunities for sales reps to go and engage with. And so you start at about 50 to 60 on the base salary, and you get about a $20,000 bonus or commissions on top of that. So if you hit all the expectations people have of you, you should make about 80,000, which is not bad as first year comp. If you compare that to a financial analyst, a marketing analyst, if you think of entry level jobs across most functions, it's hard to get to $80,000. And this is what you would make if you're good. But it's hard to be good at this job to start with, right, AJ?
Yeah, I actually just sent you guys an article from Shopify that they redid their their sales comp because of fraud. It takes 3 years. You cannot earn your OTE until 3 years into the job now at Shopify.
Yeah, that's nonsense.
It's nonsense, but it's creeping up.
Like, I think this is the type of engineering people, over-engineering of things. I think it's pretty simple to measure if a person is good or not at this job. Are they developing good leads, and are those leads closing? Like, there's a really easy way to figure it out. And it's a really hard job. Like, you're cold calling. Your first 100 cold calls will probably be one of the hardest things you have ever dealt with in life. But if you can get through it, you can do really well.
Speaking of which, I took a cold call for the first time in forever yesterday from Plaid, and it was a BDR, and I had like a lovely 10-minute conversation from Plaid, and felt like he was really well equipped. And I asked him directly, I was like, "Hey, how long have you been in this role?" And he said 3 months. And I was like, that was pretty impressive. And I was like, what's the pickup rate on your cold calls to this? He's like, well, it's 3:30 in the PM and you're the first CEO I've talked to today. So
I think
I
there's
was like,
the other side of that is very interesting because I got a cold call over Thanksgiving holiday and I was trying to engage, but I was asking questions, and the SDR got tired of answering the questions and just hung up on me.
it's amazing.
And we also had an SDR at Pavilion when we had SDRs briefly, and there was this guy that was just calling, and then immediately, he would get a connect because the connect was automatically measured, and then he would just hang up. And so there would be members that would reach out to me saying, like, I got a call from this guy George, but he kept hanging up on me. And I just think there's all these people that don't even want to do the job, which is quite interesting.
So Sam, that's
Well,
a good entry point to who should do this job. Like, how do you decide if this is a career path for you or not?
Well, here's my perspective. I think, there's these three overlapping concentric circles that people should choose their careers based on. The first is what they're good at. The second is what they're interested in. And the third is where the market is moving. And I think people tend to overestimate or overweight what they're interested in. Like they're interested in poetry, so they go work at a poetry company, or and they work in the music industry because they love music. And I think they should index on what they're good at and what they where the market is moving. The second part of that is that I think people misdefine or misdiagnose the fundamental skills that are related to some of these jobs. So they think, I don't like sales. Maybe they imagine that sales is pushing products people don't need down their throats and kind of barraging them with annoying offers until they finally submit. And that's really not what sales is at all. Sales is storytelling, problem solving, and a deep level of curiosity about how people are living their lives and what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. So if you're out there and you're thinking about maybe pursuing a job in sales, understand that that is the end goal for a high-performing account executive is somebody that likes other people, is interested in other people, and is interested in finding out if their problems overlap with that person's capabilities so that they can help them solve those problems. Now, that's not necessarily the skills that are required to be a great SDR, because in addition to having, you must, the one core, there's all of these different DNA of a salesperson. We can talk about it at great length, but I think it does boil down. You must be curious about other people. If you're not curious about other people, then you're going to be like these SDRs that hang up on me or that hang up as soon as they get a connect. They're just doing it because they're measured on activity and they are biding their time until they get fired. However, if you're willing to work hard, if you're interested in talking to people so that when people do answer, you're interested in what they have to say, if you like short feedback loops because you can instantly tell whether you're going to get a meeting or a meeting is going to be held and there's going to be a leaderboard. So if you like keeping track and measuring yourself, if you're like a biohacker that's checking your resting heart rate on your Apple Watch frequently, then maybe an SDR role could be interesting for you. And it also just simply, if you are somebody that enjoys or has the capacity to, regardless of whether you enjoy, the ability to work hard, to just put in the hours. Sometimes it is just a math problem. It's not always a math problem, but sometimes it is. Sometimes you just have to send the right number of emails and do the right number of calls to get the output. If you're willing to work hard, if you're interested in other people, and if you like short feedback loops and instant feedback and gratification, I think being an SDR could be pretty good.
The other thing I'll add to that, which I 100% agree with you, Sam, is that I've noticed the SDR role become more technical and having to have more of a technical understanding of the product. And that's as products have become more and more complicated, Plaid or Stripe or any of those, you're going to get questions from someone like Sam, and you need to be able to answer those or be curious. Or maybe you don't know all those answers, but be open to having that type of conversation and talking at the level of the person you're doing. It's no longer, oh, I'm talking to the IT director or the chief security officer, the CISO or whatever, that you'd have to be technical on infrastructure. If you're talking to me, because we've talked about being hands-on keyboard a lot more, I have an expectation that like you understand your product to the level of proficiency that an AE might have. And that wasn't the case 3 or 4 years ago.
I think I agree with all of that. And there's two things that I would add. One is, I think there's this preconceived notion that extroversion is required for sales. And that's something that we've learned consistently is just not the case. Actually, an introverted person who can be charismatic and doesn't mind engaging with people but is introverted by nature. They do quite well. They're good listeners. They understand humans better because they give them time to explain themselves, and they have this level of curiosity as the person is talking to try to understand them. So if you are introverted, that does not mean that this is not a career path for you. What it does mean is that if you were a retail salesperson, if you were selling some sort of clothes in some fashion store, yes, over there, extroversion, I think, is hugely beneficial. But if you're working for a business selling to other businesses, introversion is completely fine. And the other one is just like a heuristic to know if you should think about this career path or not. I find that people, when they're young, that have some sort of wit, they can make a person laugh, not in a slapstick way as much as they can say something witty. If you can make a person laugh, you usually have a fast processor, you have a good personality, you understand humans. Those are all really good signs that this career path is for you.
It's the only reason I've succeeded in sales, Asid. I certainly don't have the intelligence to get there.
I hadn't heard that wrinkle before, Asid, and I really like that take. That's a great little insight.
Thank you.
You're
now,
welcome.
we have somebody who has looked at themselves. They make people laugh. They've got all these other characteristics. They've picked this career path. They've started. They're wondering, okay, I'm making 80,000 my first year. When will I make 200,000? At 200,000, I can buy a house and I wear nicer clothes and I eat better food. AJ, how likely is it that 5 years into their career, they can make $200,000 a year doing this? And how would they do that? What type of role would they be in?
Not likely. I don't think it would happen.
Really?
I disagree.
Yeah, I disagree with that.
Of
course they can. Great account executive. You can get promoted to AE within 18 months to 2 years. And if you crush it as an AE by your second year, so this is year 3.5 to 4 from graduating, you can easily make 200.
Yeah, I did.
Well, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier on being technical. Also, by the way, I just have to stop. I am currently at my gate at an airport. My name was just paged over the loudspeaker. I'm flying standby.
Plane take off.
I'm flying standby, and my ticket is up there. And now I'm just going to.
I hope you all are watching the YouTube show of this because AJ is got his dorky glasses on. Those might be the Meta Ray-Bans
that Sam gave me, by the way.
And he's got a mic. He's got a microphone in his hand. Imagine him sitting in an airport right now. He looks like a crazy person.
This is how professional I am.
People are assuming there's nobody on the other end of his microphone.
My director of engineering is sitting right across from me, and she is laughing at me right now.
You look at this all of a struggling journalist right now.
Yeah.
You're just trying to get in a little piece before you fly.
So here's the deal. Going back to the question, I strongly believe that it takes twice as long to really make it at the level that you're thinking of, the 2015 to 2018, I can make 200, 300K. Doesn't happen as much. Why? Because look at what we've talked about with layoffs. How many tech jobs have gone out the door this year? 150,000 of those.
No. 150 is the total number of layoffs, right?
I know.
All of tech.
Yeah.
This small portion of them were sales.
Okay, 10%, as we talked about earlier.
What do you think about this? Okay, so 5 years
growth.
It takes you 18 months, as Sam said, to get promoted from this lead generation BDR job to your first account executive job. In your first account executive job, you're calling the smallest companies in the world. You're making somewhere around $80,000 to $90,000 base salary, $120,000, $130,000 total income. If you do that job well for a year or two, let's say 2 years. If you do that job well for 2 years, you get promoted to the next one, which is you sell to a mid-size organization. Over there, if you are selling...
Okay, wait a second. Okay, hold on, Austin. You're right. I'm just thinking about this with my own... We had a BDR that started in 2022. He is going to make more in variable comp than I will on W-2 this year. So you're right. You're absolutely right. I'm wrong. I was like, why don't I just think about my own team?
Smart people change my mind.
If you're out there listening, at any high growth company, salespeople are always paid way more than the CEO and most of the other people at the company. I am probably the 4th or 5th, maybe 6th highest paid person at Pavilion.
Wow.
I'm probably 7th, 8th on the list, on the pecking order.
I'm number 1.
That's for sure. Asid's clipping his coupon every 3 months, baby.
That's because Asid is the number 1 salesperson at
That's 3
STA.
For me and 1 for you, and 2 for me and 1 for you. Thank you very much, Max Million.
It is true though that the salespeople will get good salespeople are the best treated people in the company, in terms of flexibility, in terms of the perks that they get. They're always just treated a little bit differently. You know, this whole remote work from home, all of this thing. Salespeople always had a set of different rules that they played by. They have their own kickoff. They don't go to the company kickoff. They go to the company one as well, but they have a sales kickoff. They just get treated really nicely. If you're good at this, you get treated like a king.
Well, this rep that
Or a
is
queen.
already earned more
Whatever
than
you want to
me.
be.
He just took a 3-week honeymoon and just came back from his 3-week honeymoon. So must be nice.
Did you give him quota relief, or he doesn't care?
No, Ryan Milligan took over his quota. He had to sell for him. Seriously, we didn't give him any quota relief.
Wow.
What do you think about quota relief? Can we talk about quota relief for 2
That's
seconds?
good. Yeah.
AJ, what do you think?
Nope, boo, no quota relief. You, especially for smaller teams and startups where everything matters, you got to figure it out and handle it. That's why you're in sales. No on quota relief. Sam?
Agreed. Strong agree. But you head into the thick of it in your ENPS surveys and your anonymous feedback and your Glassdoor, and you're going to get people that want some quota relief.
That's why you shut those off.
Well, they can go to Shopify and get their OTE in 3 years.
I think the quota relief part, most people that ask for quota relief will never be the very best in those jobs, because it's just like kind of a loser thing to ask for. You have a baked in, when you sign the contract, there's a 3-week vacation baked into your contract, and there's a target. Those two things are together. So when you take the vacation, you have to be able to plan things out so that you can still hit your numbers to make your money. Or you say, I'm not going to make my money this month or this quarter, and I'll come back and I'll overachieve the next one. I'll hit my yearly number. But that's you controlling how you do your thing and taking your vacation, but planning around it. Doing this thing of trying to ask for this relief later on, it just feels really, nah.
I feel you, dog.
Yeah. Okay. So the next point is 10 years in, Sam, $300,000. Can I make $300,000? I'm good. I'm in this. I'm good. I'm hitting numbers. Can I make $300,000 in 10 years? How likely is it? How would I do it?
Listen, if you're good, very likely, 100%. I mean, 10 years. Listen, why do you go to work at startups? Why do you go to work at high growth companies? First of all, if you're working at a large enterprise company, you're working at OpenAI, you're working at Microsoft, and you're selling 7-8 figure deals, 100, you can make in 10 years, you can make $1 million easily. Is it easily? I don't know if it's easily, but I like to say easily. But
I think if you're really good, it is very, very doable. Very doable.
Yeah, and you're selling stuff that people want, and you've got the brand name, and you got the logo behind you. So yeah, I think 300 grand in 10 years is very, very doable, very easy. I think the question is, can you make 600 grand in 10 years? And again, I think the answer is yes.
Can you make that and still have like a comfortable work-life balance? Can you have a family? Can you have a house? Can you have kids? Activities?
100 million.
I don't even know if they work the full 40 hours a week at that. It's because you are selling the largest deals, right? You're an enterprise sales executive making 300,000 on target. So all you have to do is hit your target at that point. And you're talking about really large deals, 6 and 7 figure deals. You're not managing a lot of them. That you have to close a handful of them a year. You have to basically bring in somewhere between $1 million to $1.5 million in revenue to make $300,000 in income. And you don't need a lot of deals to do that. Maybe 5 deals in a year, maybe 6. And so
you are traveling. You're traveling.
But I have found that the sales is this interesting career path where for people that are just the salesperson, meaning they're just selling deals, we call them individual contributors. The hardest part of your job is in the first few years where you're doing a lot of activity, a lot of heavy lifting. I think it actually gets easier and easier over time in terms of how much effort it takes to hit your numbers. But you have to be skilled. You have to be extremely skilled and talented to be able to do those things. And that requires a lot of early career work.
I agree with that. And I would also say, and sometimes you can walk into some comp plans that are wacky. If you work on one of these quotas where they don't care whether it's new or existing, where it comes from, and you get to keep your existing book of business. I know people that have made $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 a year, and they're really not selling a bunch of new logos. They're really just hanging out with a large base of enterprise customers that really like them. They're taking them to sporting events and to Vegas and doing all the stuff. And it's not that hard.
Yeah, like if you sell at SAP has all the customers. So you're just like dealing with your existing customers, selling them more things. How many net new customers is S&P generating every year? Okay, let's talk about leadership. Or let's talk about it in the following way. We discussed how much money it takes to be in the top 1% of income earners in the United States, which is a little above $700,000. You're comfortably there if you can do $1 million. What are the different ways, AJ, to make $1 million? One is obviously, as we were talking, being a sales rep and having a really good year. But what are some other ways?
I think at that point, you might have some other options with side hustles, brand.
Side hustle?
Yeah, I don't know if you can get, I don't know.
Hustling at that much money.
Well, I'm thinking about at $1 million, you're probably closer. Are you talking about individual contributor or you've reached leadership and CRO?
Those are the choices, right?
Is this just cash comp or is this included?
Yeah, this is okay. That changes it a little bit, but I do think that you probably created some level of brand equity around your own personal brand, and there might be some other opportunities advising, which can include cash, LinkedIn sponsorship, which could include cash. That I think you could ultimately get there, and I think you just would look differently.
Just thinking a lot about this LinkedIn thing. Sam, there's this belief or this thing that people say in sales that I think is I'm not sure if it's actually true. Where they say,
hold on, let me back up a second, Austin, because it seems like you guys both disagreed, but we just talked about earlier that 750K. How many of those are you placing that have 750K OT? You said directly you'd have to be 100 million or above.
Yes.
So how do you square that? Like, how do you not get there from something else?
Mine is not that the side hustles don't get you there. I'm just not sure if that's the path. I think you've got two ways to make that sort of money, make $1 million. One is you're an individual contributor and you have an exceptional year. And you can't have these exceptional years every year. The very best reps that I've seen, the top 1% of reps, out of every 3 years, they can have 1 year where they just crush it and they make $1 million. That's doable. I think you can also become a leader. There's this thing that people say that the leaders make less money than the individual contributors who are really good. And I find that that's not necessarily true. Yes, if you're a manager or director, you probably have people on your team that make more money than you. But as a CRO, your ability to build wealth is higher if you're good than the individual contributor. So you can go and be a chief revenue officer at a company that's doing more than 100 million in revenue, and you can make at least $700,000 to $800,000 in cash comp. But you also get equity, and that equity can be really meaningful. Right now, the equity that these people are getting, if you join a company at 100 million and that company gets to $1 billion and you got them there, you'll probably make somewhere between $50 to $100 million in equity. That's pretty meaningful.
Maybe.
Sam doesn't think so.
No, I just don't know that many people that made $50 to $100 million that aren't the CEO or founder.
It's a very, very small group of people that have so far made it. But if you look at this new cohort of companies, that's what's been sold to them in their equity packages. So you're getting 0.5 to 0.6 to 0.7% of that company. You get in at 100 million in revenue, you get them to $1 billion in revenue. The company's valuation goes up quite significantly during that time. If all of these things work out, and there are a lot of ifs along the way, that's the type of outcome that they should be having.
I don't know if we're going to talk about this, but this new evolution where these AI companies are reaching these benchmarks more quickly, and so they say you deserve less equity. I think that is total BS. And
let me frame that. So if you look at the A16Z has a comp report, and if you look at the 99th percentile CRO at a late stage company, 100 million or more in revenue, traditionally they get 1% of that company. What these AI companies argue is that, listen, before in the SaaS era, it took longer to go from 100 million to $1 billion in revenue. Now we get there faster. And the value of an organization that's got $1 billion in revenue now is much higher than what it was before. The multiples on revenue are higher. And so 1% is too much. You should get 0.5% because it'll probably work out to the same amount. They're willing to negotiate a little bit, but that's their argument, that outcome sizes are bigger and the speed between stages is faster. You don't think that that's a good argument, right, Sam?
No, I think I don't understand. No, I don't think it's a good argument. I don't
It's
think
monopoly money. It's funny money.
they haven't proven out these proof points. They don't know. We haven't seen what happens when the dust settles. This is all very young, and I think a half a point I think a half a point is too little anyway. For for most folks, I think I just think like there's such a difference between founder equity and an employee equity. I own. There's so many different outcomes that could make me generationally wealthy for Pavilion. So many, and there's very very few that could make even the president of Pavilion generationally wealthy. It's a small number, and it'll be a couple $1,000,000, and I'll probably and if he makes a couple $1,000,000, I'm probably making 50 to 100 million bucks. So I don't think chiseling people on equity is the way to go. And I think if I was a CRO negotiating, then I'm asking for much higher cash comp. I'm saying, okay, these founders that are making these arguments, they don't even know they don't know how to read a P&L. They don't know what margin is. They don't know, they're like, oh, these multiples are huge right now. Sure. We don't know if that's going to last. I mean, I just think it's so hilarious. All these people are like, this time it's different. It's like, it's not different. It's not. It's still regular company stuff.
I guess the argument they would make is the sizes of these companies are getting bigger. Like we have many more trillion-dollar companies today than we've had in the past. And we're seeing companies accelerate at a much faster rate than what's before. And so the market does evolve. And what they're saying is we have this trend line of evolution over the last few decades. And so you have to pull that trend line forward. And there's a lot that we could get wrong in modeling this out. It might not just consistently go this way. But there is proof that these two things happen, that companies grow faster and they get much bigger and more valuable than before. And so if that continues to some extent, then the outcome is bigger, the speed is faster. And that if what we were saying before is that
this is like top 1%. I mean, this is a few companies that have the track record to justify this. And I think all of them are going to say they have the track record, and very few of them will. And
to your point, they were probably saying all this stuff in 98 and 99 and then boom,
and
right?
2020 and 2021. And, everybody thinks that their special snowflake is different than every other snowflake. And I'm telling you that you raise a bunch of money. I mean, look at OpenAI is a disaster. And I know we don't agree on that, but it is a disaster. It's going to be a disaster.
Why? Very quickly. AJ, you go board
before I miss my flight. I'm out. They just called Group 9, and I am Group 2, so I got to go. All right. See you guys.
Bye, AJ.
Bye.
Sam, okay, let's talk about this for a few minutes. Maybe for time we'll have to cut it out, but this will be fun. What's your base case of where you think OpenAI gets to in the next few years? Like, what do you think happens to them based on this?
I don't think they're going out of business for sure. But your argument over text is that they're too big to fail. That's your argument, right?
Kind of. Yeah.
Like that they have commitments, that they are. OpenAI fundamentally is like OpenAI, NVIDIA, Microsoft are all fundamentally interconnected, maybe even AMD, right? And so that none of those partners, and maybe SoftBank, right? Like maybe your point is Sam Altman's genius isn't executing the business. It is creating so much entanglement with his company and the global economy that all of these different constituent parts can't let OpenAI go under. And so maybe this $1.4 trillion in commitments gets restructured, and it gets restructured down to $200 billion of commitments. And at that point, it's a couple of years from now, and revenue's gone from 13 or 14 or 15 billion to 30 or 40 billion. And maybe they finally figured out how to make money and to generate cash. And the consequence of that is they're out of the woods. They can continue on their growth trajectory and pursue their path to being a multi-trillion-dollar company. I think the counter argument to that is It's $1.4 trillion in commitments that they have no way in hell of being able to repay, that they have meaningful competition from cash flow, from companies that mint money, that print cash that they do not print, meaning Alphabet and slash Google and Microsoft and Facebook. And these companies make cash. And so they don't need to fund it with funny money and these encirclements, these weird snake eating, this Ouroboros of like the snake eating its own head, where you pay me $1, so I pay you $1. So I guess my experience in life is that if it seems too good to be true, it typically is, and that there's a lot of Schadenfreude out there, and a lot of people that don't like Sam Altman, and that as they see. This is why people short companies. You need a catalyst, right? You need a catalyst, some moment at which and maybe it's the maturity of, some major debt payment or something like that. And all of a sudden, one lender decides not to subsidize or underwrite OpenAI, and everything collapses. So my point of view is that not that OpenAI is going out of business, but that it gets meaningfully restructured. Sam Altman's fired as CEO.
Wow.
They continue their growth path. And he wages some kind of war about how he was unjustly terminated, blah, blah, blah. The board, the nonprofit board, it wasn't like they thought they weren't misanthropes, they didn't fire him because like they wanted to succeed, or they didn't want to succeed, we don't want to succeed. It's too successful. They fired him because he lied to them and they didn't trust him. And so I don't think, I think you can shuck and jive and dance and tap dance all around that. I think that and I love ChatGPT, but I think that like you can't, math is math,
It's a really interesting argument, and is a very likely outcome of this. Like I don't deny the likelihood of it, but we will come back and talk about that at another time, Sam.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us on Top Line. Asid, good to see you, my friend. And thanks everybody for listening. Please smash the subscribe button if you would, and give us 5 stars wherever you get your podcast.